Brian, did you see there's a Michael Van Dorsen is asking questions? Do you able to see that on your end?
So no, I'm not pulling up any questions.
Okay.
So, wait, no, I got you. Block to block comp is best what I see. Where are you comfortable on LTV with rehab it, fund it? And that's the last question I had from Michael Van Dorsen.
Yeah, that's the one I see there. It just popped up. As far as where you comfortable with LTV with a rehab funded, I'd have to ask you to clarify that question, Michael, if you could. So far, you have the best question because it's the only one that I've seen pop up. So therefore, you're in the running to win the hoodie. Second question is, can you clarify? Because I'm not quite sure exactly what you're asking me there. So we'll come back to that when you respond to it. But yeah, to answer your question, Brian, sure, we don't take back many properties, no.
What do you think is what's your primary wheelhouse on the average home price that you're lending on, or maybe acquisition costs or at the ARV?
Yeah, that's a good question. So most of our deals that we end up funding are going to fund, like, the actual amount going out is somewhere between, say, 75 to like 350,000. Anywhere in that range is a pretty common deal that we see, which means your ARVs, the ARV that I don't like to go under is 120,000. And there's a reason for that. It's not because I don't believe you can't make money in areas where the ARV is less than 120. It's because that's where, in most markets around us, it's a rule of thumb, is where the FHA market really starts and stops. So when you go under 120, it's not all areas. Some areas are a little bit different, but you start getting into an area that's heavily non-owner occupied. And when you're non-owner occupied, in the event that I had to deal with your house or you got hit by a bus and I got to deal with your house, I don't want to sell it to another investor necessarily. I want it to be in an area, or if I do, I want to sell it in an area that has a quick owner occupied out, as opposed to another investor coming in and just renting it out for cash flow, because you're going to get basically what you paid for it almost any day of the week. So that's kind of a bar that we use for ARV. I like it to be 120,000 and up, and it keeps it in nice, clean flip deals. There's not really much money in a flip at 70 grand. And if you're not gonna, put $40,000 into a house you buy for 20 to try to resell for 70 in a neighborhood that it's just, there's no home ownership. So there's nothing to compare it to. So 120 and up is the ARV we look for. I can do a loan of $10,000. That doesn't matter as long as the resale is 120 and up.
So what's the most you've lent, and where do you start getting those sweats a little bit where you're putting the money out? I'm sure it really doesn't matter how much you're putting out there, but there is, when I'm playing blackjack and I'm playing $25, $50 a hand and it goes up incrementally, there is a mark where I say, ooh, like, am I doubling down on this? So yeah. Where's that comfortability level? Where's been that sweat?
So there's a personal answer to that. I think every lender will be different. My personal answer is, if you're doing a loan for probably about $500,000 and up, I get a little bit, hey, let's really make sure this thing is tightly run. There's that would be my number, around $500,000, something like that, because it's expensive. You got to make sure the person has a very clean exit strategy. But at $500,000, I'll still do the deal. We've done, I think the biggest one we've done in our company is like $2 million. It was just a deal that made sense, but $500,000, somewhere between $500,000 and up, and I'll really, I'll sweat. Probably literally sweat.
Okay. So, I'm looking for any kind of questions. If you want to share this video, I really, really appreciate it. Ian, why don't you tell everyone again where you can be reached at, to send you deals that people are looking at, and to look for funding?
Yeah, it's just, my phone number is 215-839-3271, and my email is IAN, just my first name, at hardmoneybankers.com.
Okay. And I don't need a name, but okay, one of your top guys that are doing flips, how much money are you lending to them? Or do they get to a point where they're doing so many, they're using their own money, or are they continuing to borrow from you guys just because?
Oh, no, a lot of guys. I mean, there's nobody, anywhere I go, there's always a capacity. Almost every experienced heavy flipper is using other money, because even if that guy has $2 million, sounds like a lot of money. Sure it is. But the heavy flippers that are doing 50 or 100 deals a year, I mean, we have a guy in our Maryland, down by Maryland, does, I think it's like 1,000 transactions a year, 1,000 flips. I mean, it's a huge operation. Uses a lot of secondary financing, like, such as our money or somebody else's. So at that level in general, like, it never stops. So there's always a moment when you're just like, these guys understand leverage very well because they multiply their buying power by about 5 times. So a guy that has 2 million now has 10 million. And if you're running that big operation, you need that. So I would say with me, I don't know, most I've had out on like one particular borrower was probably like 7, 8 deals, particularly with that borrower. But yeah, I have a lot of borrowers that will do, they'll work with different money. Like, so they might do 100 deals this year. They might use me for like 3. But it's very rare to see somebody that is scaling and doing this full time that does it specifically on their own cash. Usually those guys that do it specifically on their own cash do like 1, maybe 2 a year, and that's okay too. But they also don't like doing that because a lot of times they're maxing out their own account. So they're like, hey, I'm doing my 1 foot this year. I'm going to buy it for 120. I have a bank account of 150, and they sweat so hard. So eventually they come to me and go, I don't want to sweat like this because my bank account gets wiped out for 6 months, and they don't like it. So that same deal that I can get them into might cost them 30 grand to get into, or they can do 2 deals at a time, whatever it may be. So, but yeah, that's kind of what we run into with most people think that all of a sudden you hit this level where you don't need it anymore. But all the big guys that I deal with, all of them have, and they just use different forms of financing.
So I don't want you to give away all of your flippers' secrets, but in a market like where I'm at, we're a second home market. Most of the people don't own down here as their primary residence. Now, 2 things I've just found out. One was that the conventional loans are going to be going from a 5% or a 10% down primary home conventional to either a 3 or a 5%. So there's going to be more homeowners coming onto the market, which I think down here, especially in the offshore market, meaning you're not on the barrier islands, there's going to be a need for those homes because your borrowers are going to be able to buy a $150,000 home with very little money down. And I think there's a huge opportunity for flippers to make some money in that market. That being said, because of the amount of properties that go to foreclosure, because they're a second home, because of a bad job market or divorce or the like, it's a second home. It's the first one to go. We all know that. Where are your flippers finding those deals that are not on the MLS? How are they finding that property to get something that might have 40 or 50% equity in the home, or finding that desperate seller?
There's always the one-off. It's not the majority of them.
Well, Ian, I lost you somehow.
Lost me?
I don't know. Are you still there?
I can hear you. Yeah, I got you, Brian. Yeah, I got you.
Well, listen, maybe Ian can go to comments and answer that question with some of the places that his borrowers or his flippers are finding those good deals. I'm not sure if we had a half-hour timer on that, but we're at that 1:30 mark. I do appreciate. Okay, perfect. All right, Ian, go ahead. I lost you on my end of the feed.
Okay, hopefully they
take it away and just like kind of let me know when you're done.
Yeah. So so off-market deals. Typically, an off-market deal you're looking at is going to be wholesalers. A lot of guys tap into wholesalers. That's where they come from. And I got Dane can hear me as well. What's up, Dane? So it comes from wholesalers, or they do their own direct marketing, typically mailers, typically that kind of stuff. But a lot of deals come from wholesalers. I love wholesalers. Wholesalers are dealers without a license. So it comes from wholesalers, or they do their own direct. I love our guys getting off market that kind of stuff. But a lot of deals come from wholesalers. I love wholesalers. Brian, you there? Let me see if I can answer Mike's question when Brian's figuring out the mics there. Michael, so on ARV of 200 with a 45K rehab, what would be the amount you would loan a non-owner occupied property? $250,000 ARV, $130,000. That would be my starting point. I need to know more about what you're acquiring it for if I truly use the ARV.
So,
but yeah,
I'm not hearing your end anymore. And when I go onto the Facebook, I'm getting a ton of feedback. So I'm probably going to turn it off here in a second. Ian, I really want to thank you for coming on with me today. I really appreciate it. I hope that if anyone's looking for funding, that they reach out to you, send in a personal message. He has a ton of followers, so you can either follow him, send him a direct message, Ian, if you want to, before we go. Give them your phone number again. And most of the people here probably know where to find me, right here every day on Facebook. But I'm going to turn it over to you, Ian.
Sure. Thanks, Brian. I really appreciate you. You're a really good guy. Always been fun to work with. And 215-839-3271. Again, 215-839-3271 or ian@hardmoneybankers.com.
Well, I am going to end this. I can no longer hear Ian. Thank you guys all for stopping by. If you have any questions, if you're looking for properties down in Wildwood, the Villas, North Cape May, Avalon, Stone Harbor, Margate, Sea Isle, Ocean City, Northfield, Summers Point, Pleasantville. I'm not sure if I mentioned Ocean City, but these are key areas that I can find you those deals in. My number is 609-848-4041. Thanks for stopping by.